Welcome, welcome to Advocates for Community Wellness, a holistic approach to wellness. We are glad that you have joined us today, and we have a full platter in store for you. I am your moderator, Shirley Mims. I'm the Community Relations and Special Projects Director for Advocates for Community Wellness. And if you notice that I'm wearing a pink hat, this hat is in honor of my mother, who had a form of cancer. They all matter. And with her in my mind today, without me crying, I wore this in honor of my mother, Louise Gordon. All right, when you registered, you should have saw a disclaimer, waiver, and consent. And as you know, that these programs are for educational purposes only. What you have to alter for yourself as far as the recipes, you can do that. And the Zoom sessions are recorded, and you can turn your video and audio on or off at your discretion. A little bit about Advocates for Community Wellness. It is a faith-based, non-denominational, holistic health promotion and nutrition education ministry without walls. We bring you wellness programs in your community, where you live, work, learn, shop, and where you worship. It is our goal to be an international health promotion and restoration of health ministry. We focus on providing information, education, promoting health, nutrition, healthy cooking classes, wellness programs, and teaching the relationship between diet, health, and chronic diseases. We have a mission: building healthy families and healthy communities. Our mission is to take a holistic approach to wellness in spirit, mind, and body. And our goals, we have 3. To promote the 8 dimensions of wellness: physical, social, emotional, environmental, spiritual, financial, intellectual, and occupational. The second one is to actively engage our community in promoting health lifestyle through our educational health series to prevent, better self-management, or reduce risk factors of chronic diseases. And finally, to educate, provide support and resources to individuals, families, and communities. Let me introduce you to the founder and executive director of Advocates for Community Wellness. Del Kane is a woman of faith, a wife and mother of 1 child. She has over 20 years of work experience in the health promotion industry. Del has worked in several industries during her career, all directly related to sales and marketing or teaching. Del is a professional nutrition specialist, a certified plant-based nutrition movement cooking coach, a certified chronic disease health instructor, and a certified cancer care ministry leader. Our Journey of Hope trained at Cancer Treatment Center of America. Del is also an associate minister at her home church and serves as the health and wellness ministry leader. All right, we have the team here. Meet the wellness team for Advocates Community Wellness. We have our leader there, Del Kane. We have Regina Hopkins. She's the Director of Health Education and Program Management. All right, then we have Sharia Moore, who is on the line assisting us today, Community Engagement Coordinator. We have a new team player, Kayleen Casey. She is the Zoom meeting coordinator, and yours truly, Shirley Mims, Community Relations and Special Projects. So it takes a team, make things happen, and that's what we do. We try to work it out and get it together. Thank you. So today we're going to read our biblical reference. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. That's Jeremiah 29:11, and that is the NI version. All right, we have a table set for you today, the presenters and agenda. First, we have Chef William London. He is our culinary, it's going to be a culinary experience today. And he is going to prepare butternut squash soup with apples. And he's also going to do this, I did have this word down pat. And now, of course, this is the arugula, pear salad. That sounds good too. All right, then we have one of our RDs, Laurel Strump. She's going to talk about foods that fight cancer. And last but not least, I think we're going to kind of shift this a little bit. It'll be Ricki Fairley. She's with Touch the Black Breast Cancer Allowance. So we have a full schedule today. And I do want to make mention that it's a possibility we may go over a little bit, but if you hang in there with us to the very end, it'll be worth your while. All right. So here today, we have our guest chef, who is Chef William London. All right, Chef London. So he is going to work his fingers in the kitchen today, and he's going to put his knowledge and all what he's done together. And this is what he's going to be preparing: the butternut squash soup with apples. As I mentioned, this is the ingredients, instructions. And then this is the salad that he's also going to prepare. And everyone will get a copy of the recipes and the instructions for this. Now that really looks good there. I'm curious about the salad dressing that they're going to use on this one. And then he's going to top it off with just a little bit of green tea with turmeric and lemon. All right, so I'm hoping that the chef is ready in the kitchen, because it is time for him to step up to the plate and introduce himself to us and let us know exactly how this is all going to happen.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chef London, and I'm going to be conducting your healthy eating cooking class today. The first thing we're going to make is a balsamic vinegar dressing. And I want to talk about dressings for just a minute. I made an amazing discovery last week with Italian dressing from Olive Garden. I looked on the back on the nutritional facts. It has 540 milligrams of sodium per 2 tablespoons. And that's a lot. And we have to really, as we get older, watch our sodium intake. So what I'm going to show you today is a salad dressing that you can make at home. It's very simple, it's very easy, and it has 0 sodium. Okay? So our ingredients we're using today will be balsamic vinegar. We're going to use extra virgin olive oil. Just a little dash of salt and pepper. Honey. And the juice from a fresh orange, not the bottle stuff. Okay? So we're going to use an emulsion blender. Very easy. We're going to put all our ingredients in and we're going to mix it up. And before I start mixing up the dressing, our second dish for today is butternut squash soup. So you can see here where I roasted the squash for 1 hour at 400 degrees. And I let it cool off. And then this is what it looks like. Grandma sweet potato pie on Thanksgiving, okay? And anytime you roast anything, it gives it a lot of flavor. See, the problem with eating healthy is there's no flavor. All your flavors in butter, heavy cream, okay, chocolate. So when you're eating healthy, how you put flavor into your food is you can roast it, grill it, smoke it, okay? It gives it a great flavor. So let's start with our dressing.
So Chef, what are you putting in there now?
Olive oil.
The olive oil, okay, I saw you show that.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we got then we're gonna put in the balsamic vinegar.
Okay.
We're doing the emulsification. So we know that oil and vinegar does not mix, okay? So you see how it separates? And that's what we're doing. This is called emulsification.
Okay.
And we're taking the oil and the vinegar and putting them together as one, okay?
There is a question in the chat that
Yes.
asks, are you able to use other types of vinegar, not just balsamic vinegar? Can you use other types of vinegar?
Yes, you can use any type of vinegar you want. You can use white vinegar, you can use red vinegar, you can use red wine vinegar, apple cider vinegar. So whatever your favorite vinegar is, that's what you use. So one of my dressings that I make, my favorite is I do a strawberry basil balsamic vinaigrette dressing. So when I take the oil, the balsamic vinegar, then I put in strawberries, mango juice, and fresh basil. So when you're making a dressing, you can make the dressing any way you want to. I put in peaches sometimes. I put in mangoes and cilantro sometimes. You just go crazy with it. The thing is, these two ingredients are what make dressing. Olive oil and vinegar. That's your basic dressing. Anything else you put in there just takes it to the next level. Okay? So we have all the vinegar in, we have our honey in. A little dash of pepper. And when I make this at home, instead of using salt, I use the no sodium substitute. And then here in the cup, that's the fresh juice from the orange. That's it. The dressing is ready. Took 2 minutes. So now we're going to switch over quickly to the soup. So I have shallots and garlic. I'm going to saute that for about 5 minutes in olive oil. Okay. So now I'm going to take our fresh garlic, my garlic powder, fresh garlic, and shallots. We're going to add our squash to the pot. Okay. And we're going to add our chicken base. And our coconut milk. So when I put my ingredients in, I never put in everything. I put in a little bit, 50%, 75%. Then I taste it. So we're gonna let this simmer. Once this simmers, we're gonna do the same process with to blend it. So here's our arugula. And we're gonna add some cashews. Does anybody have any questions? And our pear.
That looks really good.
And the thing about arugula,
Mhm.
spinach, or any kind of lettuce, you can put any kind of fruit in it. Sometimes I use tangerines, sometimes I use oranges, sometimes I use apples. Then the recipe calls for Parmesan cheese. We have two types. We have the shade, then we have the vegan.
All right.
We're gonna put both ones. With the vegan on the left side, and the shade on the right side.
Oh, wow.
You know, if you want to make this more beautiful, you can add, you know, some cherry tomatoes or teardrop tomatoes to enhance that. Okay.
And I believe that pear probably gives it a really nice taste, Chef, you know, with the pears.
I mean, the tomatoes.
Yeah, wow. You can mix tomatoes with that too? Okay,
Well, you know,
looks good.
I like Parmesan. Okay.
I like it just like that.
Yeah. So that's our salad.
All right.
And then we made some nice muffins to go with that. Okay.
All right. Oh,
Okay.
that's really good, that muffin.
Yeah. That's the jumbo.
All right. All right. Now we just gotta get the soup. Good.
So let me get a zoom in on this. So we have all our ingredients going.
Mm.
You can smell this. Smell. Okay. We're gonna take a little about 5 minutes. We're gonna add in our cinnamon.
Now, is that gonna be more liquefied or is it gonna be thick like that when you serve that?
I'm sorry.
I said, is it gonna be more thinner, like when you put it in a bowl, or is it gonna be thick like it is now? As it is it?
It's gonna be thinner than that, yeah. Because once I blend it,
Okay.
I'm gonna add some more vegetable stock, and the vegetable stock is gonna thin it out. So when you're making this soup at home, you can make it as thin or thick as you like. Some people like loose soup, some people like thick soup. So the trick is, the thickness is coming from the starch. The more vegetable stock you put in, the thinner it gets.
Thinner.
So it depends on how you want it, you know.
All right. How we looking on the time, Chef? How we looking with the time? You just got that one.
We're looking good.
All right, we got a couple seconds here. Our next presenter has just arrived, so I'm just checking in. Okay, Chef, I think we're gonna around and with you. Now we're gonna move on to our next presenter, and Chef will be back to you to see the finished product. So the chef is busy putting everything together. We'll get back to him and see the finished product. Thank you for hanging in here with us. We appreciate you. Our next presenter is Ricki Fairley, CEO and co-founder of Touch Black Breast Cancer Allowance. And I'll tell you a little bit about her. I have had the pleasure of meeting her in person. And just a beautiful person all the way around. And I also had a chance to meet her daughter as well. So I'm going to read her profile here, and then Ricki is going to advance her own slides. I'm going to stop sharing so that she can come in and do her presentation. Ricki is an award-winning, seasoned marketing veteran that has transformed her tragic acumen into breast cancer advocacy. As a triple negative breast cancer thriver, Ricki's personal purpose, passion, mission, ministry, and blessings is to bring focus, attention, research, science, and action to eradicating Black breast cancer and supporting and coaching what she calls her breastees through their breast cancer experience. At this time, I am going to present to you Ricki Fairley as she comes in and give us her presentation and just share her story with us. And I think you'll be amazed. I'm going to stop sharing, and the next voice you will hear will be Ricki Fairley.
Would be good to get off of mute. Thank you so much, Shirley. It's so great to see you. It's so great to see you, Dale.
Hi.
You guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And I don't think I'm going to use slides today. I'm just going to show a video in a little bit, if that's okay. But I thought I would start by telling my story. And I was your typical crazy Black woman taking care of everybody. I was the breadwinner for my family, the rainmaker for my company that I work for, a marketing agency in Atlanta. And I was traveling every week. And my daughter happened to be in China that summer. She was a freshman at Dartmouth. And I usually would get my mammogram in July after my birthday. And so I said, I'm so busy. I'm just going to wait till Haley comes home. We had a week to do all the doctor's appointments to get her ready to go back to her sophomore year of college. So she came home, we did the dentist, we did all the doctors, and we went to the gynae, and my doctor found a lump. Had I been checking my breast, which I wasn't, I probably would have found it, but I wasn't checking. So I said, I'm really busy. I got to get my kid back to school. Can I come back in a couple of weeks and we'll do all this stuff then? And she's like, no. You need to go tomorrow to get a mammogram and a sonogram. So I got the mammogram, I got the sonogram, and the next day I had a biopsy. And then I got on a plane to Dartmouth, to Hanover, New Hampshire, to take my daughter back to school. And so as I was leaving her to go on a 3-week business trip to the West Coast, my doctor called as I was going through security in the Boston airport. And she said, yes, Ricki, you do have breast cancer. And I said, well, I have to give a speech tomorrow to 300 people. I'm about to get on a plane and I really don't have time. I haven't even read the speech yet. Can I call you back? And she's like, and I hung up and I got on the plane, flew to California from Boston, wrote my speech, did my speech. The next day I got another plane to LA and I was doing my business trip. I hadn't even really thinking about it. I'm like, breast cancer. So 3 days later, my doctor calls me back and says, okay, Ricki, not only do you have breast cancer, but you have triple negative breast cancer. And I said, well, that doesn't sound so bad. How bad could that be? Can't we just take a pill or something? And so I went to Dr. Google, and Dr. Google said, triple negative breast cancer, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die fast. There's no drugs for you. You're going to die. So I said, well, maybe I better go home. So I got on a plane, went back to Atlanta, and went into this whirlwind of breast cancer. And so my first meeting with my nurse navigator, she said, Ricki, you are so stressed. You are just totally stressed out. You are so stressed. I said, I don't believe in stress. Stress is for wimps. It's for suckers. I don't have time for stress. How do I know I'm stressed? I was yelling at her. And she said, well, how many times a day do you either think or say the word asshole? And I didn't really say it out loud, but in my head, that's what I called both my husband of 30 years and my business partner of 10 years, probably all day long, 100 times a day with adjectives. And so what I learned pretty quickly was that not only did I have to work on getting the cancer out of my body, but also the cancers out of my life. So I had a double mastectomy. I did 6 rounds of aggressive chemo. I did 6 weeks of radiation. At the same time, I quit my job. I started divorce proceedings, and I started to put my house on the market to move to the beach. All during this, and I started my own company between my 3rd and 4th rounds of chemo the first time, and my first client was the Obama campaign. I made all the radio ads for the second Obama campaign. So I wouldn't recommend doing all those things at one time. I was a little crazy, but I knew I had to find peace in my life. So then almost a year to the day of my diagnosis, after my treatment, my doctor said, okay, you have no evidence of disease, come back in a month. So a month later, it was almost a year to the day of my diagnosis. I had a PET scan and my doctor found 5 spots on my chest wall. She said, okay, Ricki, your cancer is now back. You are now metastatic. You have about 2 years to live. Get your affairs in order. We have nothing for you. There's nothing for triple negative. And I said, well, I can't really die right now. My daughter's in college. I've got, so me, you and God and some drugs or something has to work this out because I can't die right now. And so I went back to Dr. Google and I found you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. On the 3rd page of Dr. Google, I found the Triple Negative Breast Cancer Foundation. So I reached out to them and called them, and they recommended a doctor for me in Atlanta, Ruth O'Regan, and she was probably one of about 5 doctors who was actually doing research on triple negative breast cancer. So she put me on 2 experimental drugs. I did a lot more chemo, and I didn't die, and that was 11 years ago. So I know that God left me here to do this work. I've been a crazy advocate ever since, and I fight like a girl every day to help get rid of this disease. So I've been on the board of the Triple Negative Breast Cancer Foundation ever since I got better. And I was doing a lot of advocacy for pharma companies and for other organizations. And then in about 2017, 2018, a study came out, the first national study on triple negative breast cancer that basically identified that Black women get it at 3 times the rate of white women. And so I'm like, well, why is that? Why is that happening? And I wanted to understand, like, why are Black women getting this horrible disease? And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with triple negative breast cancer, but it's the worst breast cancer subtype. It has the highest mortality rate. It's the most aggressive. And it's the only breast cancer subtype that does not have a drug to prevent recurrence. So you may have heard of taking something for 5 years, taking tamoxifen. We don't have a drug. And so, it's affecting us at 3 times the rate of white women. So I said, something's wrong with this picture. And then I started digging into the data, and I started to see that the mortality rate of breast cancer in Black women is higher. And so I went to the San Antonio Breast Cancer Conference a few years ago, before COVID, when we were all traveling, and I started coining the word Black breast cancer. And the data shows that Black women have a 41% higher mortality rate than white women. Black women have a 39% higher recurrence rate of breast cancer than white women. Black women under the age of 30 get breast cancer at 4 times the rate of than Black women. Black women under 35 get breast cancer at twice the rate, die at 3 times the rate. So what's going on here? Like, why are Black women getting sicker? We have a different disease. So we have these horrible numbers. And so I went to SABCS's conference, and I started serving up this concept to pharmaceutical companies that Black breast cancer is a different disease. We are dying in ridiculous numbers. And what are we doing about it? What are you doing about it, pharma? What are you doing about the ecosystem? And I kind of put the word out there, Black breast cancer. And so I'm now, then kind of, this is all about the same time of George Floyd dying. And so all of a sudden, oh my goodness, health disparities with Black women is a thing. What a concept, right? And so we've started to get attention. And I've really been kind of fighting my way to get a seat at the table, to have these important conversations, to get better drugs. We also look back in history, and we try to find the clinical trials for the drugs that we had as standard of care. And what we found was, guess what? There were no Black women in those clinical trials. So the drugs are not working for us. And even now, the drugs being developed, we only have a 3% participation in clinical trials. So the drugs are not made for our Black bodies, and we have a different disease. So I started a movement a few months ago called When We Trial. And I'm going to show you a little video, if I can share my screen, of how we kind of introduce this movement to our Black community.
When we trial, we make a difference in breast cancer research.
When we trial, we save Black lives.
When we trial, we defy the odds.
When we trial, we do it for our sisters.
When we trial, we do it for our daughters and our sons.
When we trial, we set a new standard of care.
I was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer.
I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer at 19 years old.
I was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer at 38.
All you hear is cancer, cancer, cancer. You never think about what the doctor's saying.
Then the doctor looked at me and he said, "Did you hear what I said?" And I said, "Yeah, but I don't know how to be a breast cancer patient."
The numbers for Black women are devastating. Black women have a 41% higher mortality rate than white women. Black women have a 39% higher recurrence rate than white women. Black women get triple negative breast cancer, the worst one, at 3 times the rate of white women. So we're getting breast cancer younger at later stages and earlier ages, and it's just devastating. It's unacceptable.
I know my grandma had it and she beat it, and so I just knew that that was gonna be me as well.
So I think then my fight started was when I realized, okay, I'm up for the fight for my life. So she said, well, you know, I got this good clinical trial. You can go on it as a second phase. And she said, I think it'll work for you. But the first thing I asked her was like, am I gonna be a guinea pig? You know, because of our, you know, history with the Black culture.
Over the years, clinical trials for many African Americans have been hocus pocus. So, you know, we know about Tuskegee and Henrietta Lacks.
Clinical trial is no longer a dirty word. It is, it's a halo opportunity. It's a message from God. It's an opportunity for you to live past this moment.
But we need to get more African Americans into clinical trials because we are dying at alarming rates and we have to stop this. We really do.
And right now, there's only a 3% participation rate in clinical trials. And so even the drugs that we're making now, there's no Black bodies being tested. As we built When We Trial, we tried really hard to make it for breasties, by breasties,
I don't know if it's
about
just me,
breasties, so
but
people
I don't
can
hear any
see
sound.
themselves in what we're doing.
No? Clinical trials are important.
I can hear.
This is top-notch research that we need to have as a Black community.
It's like a butterfly effect. We all got to help each other out in one way to get to the ultimate end goal.
And I think the onus is on us that are cancer survivors to tell the story. And the least that we could do is be on a trial. But how about for your children? And for your children's children? We got to do this thing. We got to save lives.
Ricki, there's no sound.
It's just that important.
We're able to hear it, but I'm not sure what's going on.
There's no sound?
We can hear it. Everyone else is saying they can hear it.
I can put the link in the chat so you can watch it later. And we actually have a YouTube playlist with videos for each one of those women in that video. But we basically have tried to introduce that. And we started the movement first by doing a digital campaign online to Black breasties, because I wanted to make sure they had the information that they needed. And frankly, when we have these conversations about clinical trials, our breastie voice is the voice of trust. We don't trust doctors, we don't trust researchers, we don't trust hospitals and pharmaceutical companies, but we trust each other. And so I wanted to make sure that people could see women that look like them and hear their stories, to basically talk about this complicated, have this complicated conversation. And then we also learned that we did a bunch of research. We talked about 350 Black breasties to understand what their fears were. And it's really fear of the unknown, not knowing what standard of care is. And we heard stuff like, oh, you're going to get the sugar pill and die. Well, there is no sugar pill in clinical research. You're going to get standard of care. You're going to get a drug that's already on the market and maybe something on top of it that's new, or something that's new altogether. But you're not going to be left hanging out to dry and not getting any treatment. And simple things like, that Advil you took last week, that Tylenol you gave your baby, that heart medicine you gave your dog, they were all in clinical trials.
Right.
Everything's in a clinical trial, right? And so when you break down the information into very simple terms and give it from the voice of a breastie, we get it. And I can convince a woman, a breastie who's sick, to do a clinical trial in 5 minutes, just by explaining it very simply to her, but from my voice or from the voice of another breastie. So we hit the road probably in the middle of May. We did a big radio campaign because we went on hip hop stations to young women, because I believe our young women are going to be the people in our community that are going to bring these conversations to our households. Black people don't want to talk about health until Uncle Pookie gets his leg amputated or Grandma Edith is in hospice. And so I'm hoping that young women will come home and say, Mom, what's her story? Grandma, did you get your mammogram? Grandpa, did you get your PSA test? And bring these important conversations to our households and talk about clinical trials, because you really need to understand the science well before you have cancer or need a trial or need a drug. So, and frankly, if you're a Black woman under the age of 40 and you get breast cancer, especially triple negative breast cancer, a clinical trial is your best treatment. It's the best science we have. It's the best drugs we have. And you're going to get better treatment. You're going to get a better quality of care. If you're going to a community hospital, you can do a clinical trial, you're better off in the trial. If you started a chemo regimen today, you probably wouldn't get scanned for 3 months to know that that drug is working on your cancer. If you're in a clinical trial, there's going to be people all over you, scanning you, testing you, whatever, giving you gas cards, giving you, taking care of your transportation, giving you Whole Foods gift cards, but taking care of you with a better quality of care. And you'll probably get scanned in a month and know if the drug is working or not, and they can make changes. So it's really the best situation, especially for our young women. And we know our young women are dying at ridiculous numbers. So we hit the road in May, and I really wanted to go where Black women live, work, pray, play, and slay. So thank you for this platform. These are exactly the kind of platforms we need to be in to get our word out here and to get people engaged. And so far, we've signed up 4,100 Black women for clinical trials.
Wow.
So that sounds like a big number, and I'm proud of it, but it's a drip in the bucket, in the sea of where we need to be with that 13%. And clearly, a clinical trial, a drug being tested, if it's for triple negative, the number of Black women in that trial needs to be commensurate with the burden of disease. So if we're getting triple negative at 3 times the rate, I'm not smart enough to do that math, the numbers in the trial have to reflect that Black women are dying at that rate or getting it at that rate. So we have a lot more work to do. And, we have a few more events. We're actually now doing an HBCU homecoming tour. And my daughter has me going everywhere for the next month or so, but we really just want to be in the community, talking to women, talking to young women, bringing this information. And, if you go to our YouTube channel, I'll put it in the chat and you can see the other videos that we have, and we have a lot more to come because I really want to give a place of safety so people can learn about clinical trials, learn about the science, and feel comfortable, because the huge factor that's happening is that doctors are not inviting Black women into trial. We're just not being invited. And so we have to ask for them ourselves. We have to ask for them. And they should be a first consideration when you start treatment for breast cancer. It should be something you consider from the very beginning. And so we're trying to give you the information that you need to know what questions to ask your doctor, how to have these conversations with your doctor, and how to demand the quality of care that we need, that we deserve. Frankly, we live in a world of health inequity, and the health literacy in our Black community is breeding that health inequity. So we have to educate our community, have to educate our sisters and brothers in our communities to make them feel equipped with information. And we have, we're not going to have health equity until every healthcare professional practices the golden rule, what your mother taught you when you were 2 years old. Treat others as you want to be treated. And so a lot of times when patients come to me and say, the treatment plan the doctor said I should have is XYZ, I will go back to the doctor and say, is that the treatment plan they would give their mom, their auntie, their grandmother, their daughter? Because it's not good enough for their family, it's not good enough for you. And we have to demand that level of care in every instance with a doctor. So that's kind of my story. Happy to take some questions if you want.
We want to thank Ricki for coming on today and sharing that, her story with us. I brought tears to my eyes, but I'm like, Ricki, we gotta be strong. We gotta be strong. And
we have to fight this fight. I know you guys are fighting this fight, and
yes.
we have to make it go away. I work for my grandbabies. I have 3 precious grandbabies. They're 5, 3, and 19 months.
Oh, wow.
And I'll tell you a quick story. So a few months ago, I live at the beach. I moved to the beach basically. And so Bella and I were in the shower, the 5-year-old, and her baby sister is still nursing. And so she said, my grandma name is Debbie. So Debbie, how come you don't have those things on your boobs that baby heart sucks on? And I said, well, they got sick. My nipples got sick, and then my boobs got really sick, and they're making me really sick. So I told her the whole story. I explained everything about breast cancer. I showed her pictures. We talked about it for an hour. Of course, she went to school and told her class that her grandmother had fake boobs, and that's okay. But that's the last conversation I want to have with her about breast cancer. I don't want to talk about it with her. I want it to go away. And I got about 10 years before she's going to get boobs. So I want it to go away. I want her to be, she's my purpose. And so I fight like a girl every day to make it go away. And I sit on, all these pharma boards of the drug companies that make breast cancer drugs. And I feel very blessed that I've gotten pharmaceutical support like Gilead, Dale, and like other companies that are giving us money to do this work, but also listening to me say, fix it. Give us better drugs, you guys. This is your job. And the pharma companies come to me and say, what should we do? Go to the lab. Put some science in place, make this happen, get the drug. So I will keep fighting that fight until I can't do it anymore. So thanks for having me.
We appreciate you, Ricki. And I want those that can put their hands in the air, and let's give an applause so she can see them. If you can put your hands in the air, let's show
Thank you so much.
bless you. May God continue to lead you and guide you and order your steps. He's already ordered your steps, and you're
Oh,
stepping,
yeah.
you're stepping in grace, and I can feel that in my spirit. Thank you so much for coming on today. All
Thank
right.
you.
All
God
right.
left me here to do this work, so I'm doing it. So you guys be blessed. Be blessed.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
We thank God for the things that we bring to the table for you. It's not only for you, but it's for us. It's for me. And I'm grateful that Ricki just told it like it was. And sometimes you have to hear that. So now we have a presentation. Unfortunately, we had a few problems with this. And I'm going to see if I can click in it. This is from a registered dietitian. She was on the agenda for it today. And her name is Lorelei STURM. And we're going to listen to her story. Now, we know we are over the time, which I expressed to everyone when we started that we were probably going to go over today because we were trying to include all of the good things in for you. So we're going to go ahead and start this. If you can stay, it'll be worth your while. But just remember that you will get a copy of what is being videoed and what we're showing today. You will get a copy of that. All right, here we go.
Hi, my name is Lorelei. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist. I work as the community nutrition manager at Near North Health. And today Dale has asked me to talk a little bit about foods that fight cancer. So Dale and I know each other. We are teaching some cooking classes together at the YMCA. And so we've been working together on talking to people about foods that can support your health, about how to prepare them, how to enjoy them. One of the things that I have been devoted to since becoming a dietitian is helping people to fall in love with healthy eating. Healthy eating can prevent a whole bunch of things, cancer being one of them. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. I do have a slideshow to share with you. We'll go back and forth a little bit so that I have a chance to talk to you about some of the details of cancer-fighting foods. All right. So yes, we're going to talk about foods to fight cancer. The idea is that we can eat our way to reduced risk. So we've got a couple of foods here that I think we know. We are probably familiar with some of the foods that we think of as cancer preventing, but we're going to get a little bit more into it. The very first point that I want to make is that you cannot cure cancer with food. And so I really want to make the distinction between prevention and treatment. So I'm going to leave my shared screen a bit, and we're going to definitely talk distinctly about that. So although we can eat to support a healthy lifestyle, which can reduce our risk of getting cancer, if you have been diagnosed with cancer and someone tells you that they can cure your cancer with diet or with a supplement, you need to turn around and walk away, right? So we are not at that stage with nutrition where we can say, hey, we have a diet that is going to cure your cancer. You do not need any medical treatment. No, you do need, once you've been diagnosed with cancer, to be working with a medical person who can help you to walk through cancer treatment. Now, listen, I know that there are some people who will voluntarily decline treatment because some people are not interested in chemotherapy, things like that. And honestly, that is a very personal decision if you decide to do that. But choosing to improve your diet in place of getting actual cancer treatment is not recommended. I don't think you'll find any medical professionals that will recommend that. And there definitely are situations where people have, gone off to, a farm and started eating all organic foods and all of those things, and their cancer just continues to grow. I mean, we can obviously improve our diet all the time, but once you have cancer, you need to be treated by a medical professional. Okay, so that really is the biggest point that I wanted to make before we get further into this, because yes, we can eat to help ourselves out, but we cannot treat or cure cancer with food alone. So prevention, fruits and vegetables, who knew? Whoever would have guessed? I know, I'm blowing your minds. Yes, eat eating fruits and vegetables are really good. Treatment, nutrition becomes critical, right? So again, this nutrition is not going to cure the cancer. It's not going to solve the problem, but we're ill at that point. So it's very critical at that stage that we do nourish our bodies, take care of ourselves, support ourselves in order that we can stay alive long enough to heal. So it is critical. Nutrition in treatment is critical. It is just not the only facet of treatment. So, okay, I've said that enough. Let's get into our prevention. So, first of all, I just want to point out that a lot of cancers are associated with obesity. So I think we're familiar with these, but did you realize how many cancers are associated with being overweight or being obese? So starting with things that we might be familiar with: breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, colon cancer, uterine cancer, but even things like kidneys, gallbladder, liver, and even some cancers in the brain are associated with obesity. So what does that mean, associated? Does this mean if I'm obese, I'm going to get cancer? If I'm thin, I'm not going to get cancer? No. What it means is that when researchers look at populations of people who have gotten these types of cancers, they are seeing that the prevalence is higher among people who are obese or overweight. And so they build these associations. And then they start to think of reasons why obesity would be contributing to higher likelihood of some of these cancers. And the main one is inflammation. So people who have more weight on their bodies, they tend to be living in a chronic state of inflammation. And inflammation can start to lead to things like cell damage, cellular damage, which can progressively lead towards development of cancer. Also, inflammation can, compromise our immune system so that we're less capable of like rallying should we end up with a small amount of damage in our body. And so it's more likely that a cancer can develop to the point where it's detectable. So that's the association. Now, there are some cancers, honestly, lung cancer, which is the leading cause of the cancer that is the leading cause of death, is not associated with obesity. So not every cancer is, but many of them are. So that's something that we do want to address. Okay, back to our slides here. So just kind of to note, that's just sort of the background. So prevention, right? So we want to obviously work towards preventing obesity, but there are also foods that can help support prevention of cancer. The main way that we're doing this is eating foods that are full of antioxidants. And I think we hear this a lot, but we don't always know, like, well, why? What does that mean? So this is a really simple graphic. Hopefully it's not totally unclear, but so you can see on the right side of this graphic, I'll see if I can use my little cursor to point this out. This is what we call a free radical. So where do free radicals come from? Honestly, they just happen in the body from time to time. We see them more commonly, from if we eat a lot of processed food, if we eat a lot of things like, red meat, smoked meat, things like that. We see them in obesity and inflammation and stuff like that. And basically what this is this is a molecule that has an unpaired electron. It's a little sciencey, right? So I'm not going to make this really complicated. But when a molecule has an electron that's unpaired, it's very unstable. It's like a magnet that needs to find something to stick to, right? So it's going to go around and try to grab electrons from all sorts of other molecules anywhere it can reach. And so it'll grab an electron from another molecule. Well, guess what? Now that molecule is short an electron, and it just progresses and goes on and on and on. And it can actually create damage in our cells and specifically to our DNA, which can affect how our body functions. So what antioxidants do is that an antioxidant molecule is able to donate an electron to a free radical. So it kind of calms that free radical down, and that molecule no longer has to run around scavenging for an electron. And this antioxidant is actually stable even though it loses that electron. So that's specific to that particular type of molecule. These are different types of molecules. But that anyways is kind of the idea, is that missing an electron, it's going to scavenge for electrons and steal it from all sorts of other molecules, and there's just going to be damage kind of happening all over the place. Antioxidants can kind of calm down that process and resolve it. So, antioxidant foods. This is a list. It is not a comprehensive list. So things like berries, beets, beans, greens, nuts, cruciferous vegetables, spices and herbs, tomatoes, and this is just a few of them. You'll notice that many of these are fruits and vegetables. So I want to spend a little more time just talking about some of these foods that contain antioxidants. So I think we've all heard of things like berries, but it can be really anything. Blueberries, I know, have like a huge reputation of being really high in antioxidants, but you know, things like strawberries, cranberries, all of these have antioxidant properties. So berries are great. Beets, antioxidant in beets is a betalain. So we're looking at that pigment, right? So beets, so bright and red. Berries also, like blueberries, really bright in color. Strawberries, cranberries, these bright colored pigments usually indicate an antioxidant component in the food. Another thing that we can, color-wise, that we can look for is bright orange. Bright orange, things like carrots, sweet potatoes, squashes, things like that. The orange is beta carotene. Now, this is a precursor to vitamin A, which we need in the body, but beta carotene is itself an antioxidant. Another antioxidant, vitamin C. That is what it does in the body. So anything that contains vitamin C, so many foods contain vitamin C. Of course, we know citrus contains vitamin C, but also things like bell peppers are really high in vitamin C. Beans. Oh my gosh. So this is one that I think a lot of people don't get enough of in their diets. Legumes, things like, you know, pinto beans, black beans, kidney beans, also things like lentils. So we know that legumes are very high in fiber, and they also are a good source of protein, but they are also an antioxidant source and actually an alternative to proteins for people who are trying to go more plant-based. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So beans, greens, again, we've got that bright pigmented color. Herbs and spices. Did you know that herbs and spices are actually super, super high in antioxidants? One of the highest ones is cloves, believe it or not. I actually just learned that when I was preparing to talk to you guys. So cloves, but other spices that are high in antioxidants, things like cinnamon, oregano, thyme, dried. Honestly, the dried version is the one that is higher in antioxidants. Also, things like ginger and turmeric, which have been really well studied and have lots of other health benefits as well. These are some other good herbs and spices. So flavor your food. Let's see what else. Well, we've got things like tomatoes. So some of the foods that we think of as having antioxidant properties have actually been shown to help prevent specific cancers. So tomatoes, which are high in lycopene, have been shown to reduce the risk of prostate cancer in men. Another food that's high in lycopene is watermelon. Again, we can recognize that color as being the bit that has the antioxidant property. Cruciferous vegetables. So this includes things like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale, Brussels sprouts. The antioxidant in cruciferous vegetable is a glucosinolate. I think that's how you say it. So I want to just point out that the actual antioxidant in all of these foods is a little bit different. So it's not like, okay, well, I just need to eat broccoli and blueberries every day and I'm good. The goal is actually to eat a variety of these things over time, incorporate all of them into your diet so that you're getting the benefits from all of these different types of antioxidants. Something that didn't even make the list is something like salmon. So again, think of that bright color in salmon. That pigment, astaxanthin, I think that's how you say it, astaxanthin, that pigment is also an antioxidant. So bright colored foods, naturally bright colored foods. So we're not talking about foods that have been processed and dyed to look a certain color, but that's kind of where we want to focus. Okay, so a lot of these foods, antioxidant properties, and this should come as no surprise to us, right? We know these are fruits and vegetables. Nuts. Oh yeah, I didn't even mention nuts. Nuts are also another source of antioxidants. Nuts have vitamin E in them, which is also, it's an essential vitamin, but it is an antioxidant. Plus nuts are high in fiber, things like that. Okay, So let's move on. Eat more veggies. I feel like this is the big message. And how many veggies should we be eating? So who knows how many we should have? Any thoughts? Just think about it in your own mind. Recommendation is to have at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every single day. I think that's low. So really, if you can get up to something like 9, you're going to be better off. Now, listen, here's the deal. We have a lot of fruits and vegetables. So if you hate carrots, all right, you don't have to eat carrots, eat something else. If you say you hate all vegetables, I encourage you to challenge that notion, because honestly, it's not what you do, it's not a particular vegetable that's that important. It's not like, well, I must eat an eggplant that's going to cure my cancer, right? That's going to keep me from getting cancer, right? It's eating a variety of vegetables, enough of them every day over a long period of time, building sort of that healthy pattern of eating vegetables and fruits. Some people like fruits better than vegetables, and that's fine, but we do want to do our best to get a variety and to increase the overall quantity. When I say a serving, what does that mean? So for fruit, generally it's about 1 piece of fruit. I'm going to pull away from my screen for another moment here. So fruits, generally a serving is 1 piece. There are some things that obviously, like grapes, it's not 1 grape, right? So anything that like melon, grapes, things like that, we'd say maybe about a cup, right? So when we chop it up, a cup of grapes, a cup of chopped melon, it's about a serving, right? Vegetables, raw vegetables, about a cup. Also, same as the fruit. Vegetables obviously lower in calories than fruit, but all of these things high in fiber, high in vitamins and minerals, and of course these fresh fruits and vegetables, antioxidants. By the way, frozen also quite good. And as we talked about, like dried herbs and spices, you don't lose the benefits of these things just because they change their state, but we do want them to be, still fresh and, as naturally available as possible, right? Cooked vegetables, half a cup is a serving, because vegetables kind of cook down. If we're talking about something like greens, if it's a fresh green, you gotta pack it. So it can still be a cup, but you gotta pack it into that cup. So not like loosely packed lettuce, the cup, right? Pack it in there, and that's your serving. All right, let's move on. Okay, so yes, just eat more veggies and, make your body happy. So just of note, as many as 1/3 of all cancer deaths are linked to diet and physical activity. And this is, again, where we want to try to prevent ourselves from getting cancer in the first place. Healthy lifestyle. So beyond diet, healthy lifestyle includes things like not smoking, keeping your skin protected from the sun, getting enough sleep, getting some exercise, managing your stress levels. All of these things can contribute to your overall cancer risk. And then, of course, eating a better diet. So plant-based eating, I feel like this is kind of a term that people get confused by, because they think that means you have to go vegan, which means eating no animal products whatsoever. And although many people will take it that way, and vegan diets can be very healthy, I want to say that plant-based eating, I think of it as a little bit of a different way. So plant-based, let's think about what that is. Your diet should be based on plants, right? So like the foundation of it is plants. That doesn't mean there's nothing else that is included in your diet. And that something else might be, it might be a little bit of meat, it might be dairy, it might be eggs, it might be fish, it might be something like that. But for example, if you're going to the grocery store, we want to mostly be buying foods that have 1 ingredient, and the food is coming from the ground rather than an animal. We want that to be the majority of what we're eating. So of course, it's going to mean lots of fruits and vegetables, minimal intake of processed foods, and then reducing meat consumption. Something else to think about when we're talking about like reducing meat consumption is, well, a lot of people are concerned, well, where am I going to get my protein? There are a lot of protein sources in the plant world. One of them I mentioned before is beans. This is a cancer fighter for sure. It's a great source of protein. It's a great source of fiber, a great source of antioxidants. One specific cancer, colon cancer, prevention, eating a high fiber diet, also avoiding things like red meat, processed meat, meats that have been charred, right? So these two things, so if we're going towards plant-based proteins such as beans, and we're cutting out some of those meats, both of these things are going to work to help with our digestive tract. So colon cancer, a big one, right? So that's important to think about. I know that not everyone can do all of these things automatically, but just if you want to know, right, like, well, what direction do I want to go in? This is the path we want to start to get ourselves on for prevention. Okay. Anyone have any questions about that? I'm not here, you can't ask me, but you can ask Dale. And if you've got questions for me that Dale can't answer today, have her bring them to me, and I'm happy to do my best to try to answer some of these follow-up questions if anyone has them. Okay. So now we're going to talk just briefly about support during treatment, because as I said, we can't cure cancer with diet. I think I said that, didn't I? Mm-hmm. We can't cure it, but it still is important, right? So if we are going through cancer treatment, there are some things that we can run into, right? So a lot of people, chemotherapy gives people nausea. Sometimes people have loss of or change in their taste. And so it can be actually very difficult to eat. And to be honest, people tend to lose weight during cancer treatment. And sometimes it's not the kind of weight loss that we want in everyday life. People lose muscle, people get weak, people start to feel a little frail and sick, and they're not robust enough to handle their treatment real well. So we do want to think about supporting people in eating. Sometimes people get mouth sores from chemotherapy, and it can be difficult to have, like, certain foods irritate your mouth. Some people have difficulty swallowing, you can get sores in the back of your throat. So there are actually a lot of challenges to eating when you're going through cancer treatment. Plus, because you're healing, because you're trying to recover, most people who are being treated for cancer have increased protein and energy needs. So the role of nutrition in these situations is to try, it's still healthy diet, you know, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, nuts and seeds, beans, legumes, like, right? We still want to have all those foods. But we sometimes, as dietitians, need to find ways that these things are edible for people. So sometimes we'll find ways to, like, create blended soups or do smoothies or things like that, because people do need to get their nourishment during treatment. They have to keep their energy up. They have to get enough calories. They have to get enough protein. We don't want people to go, protein is a funny one. My father actually is in recovery from cancer, and he was talking about, wow, you need lots of protein. And I said, well, you know what? Most people get more protein than they need on a regular basis. It's true, however, that if you do have cancer, your protein needs are higher, because especially if you're in treatment, we need that to heal our bodies, but in balance with everything else. Like, we don't want to say, oh, well, I need protein, and then forget to have our vegetables, right? Forget to have our fruits, because those things are also beneficial for us. So it's all still in balance, but it is much more crucial and critical, because we need to nourish our bodies and support our recovery. So that's kind of where foods come in during cancer treatment. Again, there is not a food that is going to cure your cancer, and there is not really like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 foods even that can help prevent cancer either. It really is the pattern of eating. So if I can emphasize nothing else, it's like we want our overall pattern of eating, our overall habits, to include these foods on a regular basis, whether we're trying to prevent it, whether we're trying to support ourselves during recovery, after we've gone through cancer treatment and we're hoping to prevent recurrence. We want our overall pattern of eating to support. So I know people are looking for, like, hey, is there just one food I can eat every day, and, you know, to guarantee I'm never going to get cancer? It doesn't really work like that, right? So all of these foods that I've talked about are important and helpful and components to help support that healthy diet. All right. So one more thing that I wanted to talk about. This is just a little bit interesting to me, and maybe you'll be interested in it too. I'm not sure, but dietary approaches to support to cancer treatment. So like I said, we can't cure cancer with diet just as of yet. However, there are some things that people are researching, such as fasting or fasting mimicking diets. We've known for a really long time that, like, calorie restriction or sometimes fasting can help people with longevity. And so there is there are some studies going on about whether fasting or diets mimicking fasting can help with treatment of an existing cancer. And here's kind of how it works. This is just a quote that I took from a study that I was reading. And so you can read this quote, but I'm just going to kind of sum up. So basically, our normal cells have the ability to kind of they can go into a survival mode, for example, right? So we've often, as humans, as we were evolving, we had periods of starvation. Our normal cells are actually capable of resisting starvation and sort of just kind of hunkering down and doing and, you know, surviving on their reserves. Cancer cells, not so good at that, right? Cancer cells are always in growth mode. In fact, that is kind of what makes them cancer cells, is that they're always proliferating, they're always growing. But they don't really have that survival mode. So if we can create an environment in the body where cells need survival mode in order to, you know, survive, then those cancer cells have a disadvantage. And then if we hit them with cancer treatment simultaneously, those cancer cells are much more vulnerable, but our normal cells are much more resilient, right? So that's kind of the idea behind fasting or fasting mimicking diets, is that if we can create that environment, it's bad for cancer cells, good for normal cells. However, this is designed to complement, not replace standard medical therapies. So we don't just do this, you know, this dietary approach. We also, this is in conjunction with chemotherapy, with radiation, with whatever cancer treatment is appropriate. And honestly, this isn't standard of care by any stretch of the imagination. It may become so one day. It is not there. There are promising results in mice, but we are not mice, and there have been limited clinical trials in humans. You know, we are similar to mice in many ways, but we are not identical to mice in terms of our anatomy and physiology. Also, unlike mice, you know, we could drive to the Jewel and get a bag of chips at midnight. We can go through a McDonald's drive-through. We complain to our spouses when we are hungry and don't like the food that we're being forced to eat. Mice just put up with it. So some of these diets that we're talking about that can be, you know, like, hey, maybe this can play a role, they're actually in real life, they can be very difficult to follow. So this is not something I'm giving you as advice, but just more like, hey, speculative. Down the road, it's possible that we will see something like this becoming more of a standard of care in cancer treatment, but right now it's not. It's just, you know, maybe on the horizon and interesting to me as a dietitian. So we're going to move past that and just talk real quick about a couple of takeaways. So healthy diet and lifestyle have been shown to decrease cancer risk. Focuses on healthy eating patterns, not individual foods. Variety is important. You do want to be eating a lot of different foods, especially those antioxidant-rich foods, fruits and vegetables, as I said, always. Healthy eating habits that reduce cancer risk also reduce risk of other chronic diseases, right? So it's kind of that thing of like, hey, this sounds really familiar because I was eating like this to prevent diabetes or prevent heart disease, whatever. Yes, these are the same ideas, the same concepts that really apply to all of these chronic disease risks that we can encounter. Food cannot cure cancer. All right. So thanks so much. I hope this has been helpful. Again, if you have questions, you can certainly ask Dale and she can pass them along to me. But it's been a pleasure speaking to you today, and I hope you learned something.
We have really had a good agenda for today. And I really appreciate everyone that kind of hung in there with the little mishaps. That's a part of life. And sometimes you don't want them, but they do come by and they do visit you. But I think thinking of Ricki and the young lady, the dietitian, is that all she broke that down and made me see some things myself that I need to do. And I'm hoping that it does the same for those of you that are on here. So now we're going to move on. Well, we know this month is just about over and November is coming up. That's next month. So we are planning moods and food. And we want you to stay tuned because there'll be more information to come as we move along. Dale and I will put our heads together with our team and we'll give you a nice holiday bowl of surprises. So, and so that's just what we're planning to do. And we just appreciate you helping and just being here and understanding and getting all this education that's going to help us to just have a long and healthy and a fun life as well. So you just need to stay tuned. Let me see. All right. Here we have my journey, looking good, feeling good. I like that. And I can see that Del Kane is here. All right, so this is Saturday, November the 12th, from 10 to 2:30. All right, and if you want to be a part of this, you should be able to go onto our website. I'm hoping that this is there so that if you're interested in being a part of this, I'm sure they would be glad to have you. All right, so these are all of those that are going to be speakers. These are all the speakers that are going to be speaking. And I see Ricki is also on here that we had today, and she is part of this group as well, and our very own Del Kane. All right, and then this is the Bethlehem Brent President Sisters Working It Out. Working It Out is a community partner of Advocates for Community Wellness. All right. Well, we're just glad. So put this on your calendar, November the 12th. And if you want any more information, just give us a call. And I'm going to give you that information here. You can contact us, go to our website. There's probably more information there. And then we have an email if you're interested, and we'll be able to give you the information or answer the questions that you may have if you want to play a part in that. All right. So for our social media, we are on Instagram and Facebook. All right. So we would love to have you. All right. Our closing prayer. Final as my heart shows a little after the work of the years. May it expand in love for you and all people. May it rest secure and grateful in your loving heart until I am lost in you completely and forever. Amen. May God bless everyone. Thank you for staying and hanging out with us. It was much appreciative. And we look forward to seeing you in November. Just stay tuned because you will see what we have in mind for you. And if we don't see you before Thanksgiving, but I'm hoping that we do. Don't eat too much turkey. Now let's put some vegetables on the table as you see that they have explained to us how important that is. And thank you again. May God continue to bless you and keep you. Bye now.